Welcome back to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by KringlesChristmas.com, home of Comet's Choice premium reindeer food.
Reindeer tested.
Santa approved.
That's right.
Tonight, we're diving deep. You know how we do into the magic that never fades.
Oh, yeah.
A story about a young girl, Ariel, and her belief in, you guessed it, Santa Claus.
A classic.
It really is.
Yeah.
It explores those timeless themes of doubt and faith and the power of imagination.
That's what Christmas is all about, right?
It is. Think back to when you were a kid, right? Was there something you believed in so strongly and then maybe you started to question it?
Oh, I think we all have those moments.
We do. And that's what Ariel's going through in this story.
Can't wait to hear it.
Let's dive right in. We're
Okay.
going to hear the magic that never fades in its entirety.
Sounds good.
So get comfy. If you want to read along, now's a good time to pause and grab the book.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Snow swirled and danced around Maplewood Elementary, piling against the windowsills and muting the sounds of the playground.
I love that imagery.
Inside the sixth-grade classroom felt like a different world entirely. Garlands of paper chains looped across the walls. Tiny paper snowflakes twirled from the ceiling. And a Christmas tree no taller than Mrs. Cartwright stood proudly in the corner, its branches weighed down by glittering ornaments made by the students.
Sounds festive.
Ariel Rivera sat at her desk, leaning over a half-finished holiday card. The scent of glue and fresh-cut paper filled the room, mingling with the faint aroma of pine from the tiny tree. She hummed softly to herself, lost in her work.
Ah, the simple joys of childhood.
The card was for Cosing. Santa Ariel had used her best cursive to write, "Thank you for always bringing magic to Christmas." Below the message, she had drawn a small sleigh flying across a sky filled with stars, each one carefully traced in silver marker. Now she was gluing a golden star to the top, her favorite part of the design.
Ah, that's sweet.
"What are you asking for this year?" her best friend Harper whispered, leaning closer. Ariel's eyes sparkled.
I bet they did.
"A sketchbook with thick paper so I can draw without the markers bleeding through. I think Santa will bring it. He always knows what I need." Harper smiled. "You're so lucky. I'm just hoping for a puppy." Across the room, Savannah Briggs was lounging in her chair, a roll of red ribbon dangling from her fingers. Savannah had a knack for commanding attention even when she wasn't trying. She wore her hair in a sleek ponytail tied with a velvet scrunchie, and her polished nails glinted every time she gestured.
Sounds like a bit of a contrast to Ariel.
She does. Savannah caught Ariel's words and smirked. "Santa? Seriously?" She said just loud enough for the girls to hear. Ariel froze her scissors, hovering mid-snip. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice soft. Savannah leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "You don't actually believe in Santa, do you?" "Of course I do," Ariel said quickly. Savannah's smirk widened. "Oh, come on. Everyone knows it's just your parents putting the presents into the tree. The whole Santa thing is for little kids." Ariel stared at her, her chest tightening. "That's not true," she said, but her voice trembled. Savannah shrugged. "Believe what you want, but you'll find out sooner or later Santa's not real."
Ooh, that's got a sting.
For the rest of the afternoon, Savannah's words echoed in Ariel's mind, pulling at the threads of her belief like a loose string unraveling a sweater. Even the festive hum of the classroom couldn't drown out the doubt. When the final bell rang, the students poured into the snowy afternoon, their laughter and shouts filling the air. Ariel lagged behind, clutching her card tightly in one hand. She usually loved walking home in the snow, watching the world transform into a glittering wonderland. But today, even the snowflakes seemed heavy, weighing her down. Her street was lined with houses adorned in twinkling lights, their yards dotted with inflatable Santas and reindeer. Normally the sight filled Ariel with joy, but now it all felt like an elaborate trick. Could Savannah be right?
I'm starting to feel for Ariel.
When she reached her house, Ariel paused at the gate. Her mom had strung colored lights across the porch, and a wreath with red berries hung on the door. The window glowed softly, the Christmas tree just visible inside. Ariel usually loved coming home to this warmth, but today it felt distant. Inside, her mom was rolling out gingerbread dough, the kitchen filled with the sweet scent of molasses and spices. Ariel slipped off her boots and coat without a word, then trudged upstairs. That night, Ariel sat on her bed, staring out at the snowy street below. Her Christmas lights cast faint shadows on the walls, but they couldn't chase away the sadness in her chest. She pulled her card out of her backpack, tracing her finger over the glittering star. It had seemed so magical when she made it, and now it felt hollow. Biting her lips, she pressed the card to her heart and whispered, "Santa, if you're real, please prove it. I want to believe, but I don't know how anymore." She climbed into bed, pulling the blankets up to her chin. Outside, the snow fell softly, blanketing the world in quiet. Ariel woke to a faint sound like the jingling of distant bells. She sat up her room, bathed in silver moonlight. The air felt different, alive, like something magical was stirring. Sliding out of bed, Ariel padded to the window and peered out. At first, she saw only her snowy yard untouched and pristine, but then in the distance, a light appeared.
Oh, I wonder.
It started as a soft glow hovering above the treetops. Slowly, it grew brighter, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Ariel's breath caught as the light began to take shape. First a sleigh, then reindeer, their antlers glinting like icicles in the moonlight. A shadowy figure stood at the helm, his coat billowing in the wind. As the sleigh descended, the glow illuminated the yard, casting long, shimmering shadows. Ariel's heart raced. She grabbed her slippers and ran downstairs, her footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. Throwing open the front door, she stepped into the cold night. The sleigh had landed in the middle of the yard, its runners resting lightly on the snow. The reindeer snorted softly, their breath steaming in the crisp air. And there, standing beside the sleigh, was Santa Claus. He was exactly as Ariel had imagined, tall and broad, with a flowing white beard and eyes that twinkled like stars. His deep red coat was trimmed with white fur, and over his shoulder he carried a sack that seemed to shimmer with its own light. "Ariel Rivera," he said, his voice warm and rich. "I've been waiting for you." Ariel's breath caught. You're real," she whispered. Santa chuckled a sound like the ringing of sleigh bells. "Of course I'm real, but I hear you've been doubting me." Tears pricked at Ariel's eyes. "Savannah said you weren't. She said it's just my parents putting out the presents." Santa knelt, his kind gaze meeting hers. "There will always be people who doubt Ariel. That's part of growing up. But Christmas magic isn't about proving anything. It's about believing in the things you can't always see, love, generosity, and joy."
Wise words.
"But how do you do it?" Ariel asked. "How do you visit every house in one night?" Santa's smile widened. "Ah, that's one of Christmas's greatest secrets. But perhaps I can show you a little something to help you believe." Santa held out his hand, and Ariel hesitated for only a moment before taking it. His gloved hand was warm, and as he led her to the sleigh, she felt her heart fill with wonder. "Climb aboard," he said, helping her into the seat beside him. The reindeer snorted and stamped their hooves as Santa took the reins. With a crack and a shout of "Up, Dasher! Up, Dancer!" the sleigh lifted into the air. Ariel gasped as the ground fell away beneath them. The wind whipped through her hair, and the stars seemed close enough to touch. Below, the snow-covered world stretched out like a glittering map, dotted with glowing houses and winding rivers of light. As they soared higher, Santa pointed to a cluster of lights in the distance. "That's your town," he said. "Look closely." Ariel peered over the edge of the sleigh, her heart swelling. She could see her house, the tree glowing softly in the window. But more than that, she could see the warmth and love inside her mom baking cookies, her dad wrapping presents, the spirit of Christmas alive in every corner. When Ariel woke the next morning, she wasn't sure if it had all been a dream. But as she rushed downstairs, she found something beneath the tree that made her pause. It wasn't just the sketchbook she had asked for. Sitting beside it was a small ornament, a snowflake that shimmered faintly with a light all its own. Ariel picked it up, her fingers trembling. She smiled, the memory of the sleigh ride filling her heart. Santa was real. She believed it with all her being.
Wow, what a story.
Right. That sleigh ride, seeing her town from above, it's such a vivid image, and I bet it really resonated with Ariel.
Yeah,
I felt a little tug on my own sense of wonder listening to that.
me too.
But there's so much to unpack here, isn't there? This isn't just a sweet Christmas story. It touches on some pretty profound ideas about belief and doubt, things we all face at some point.
Absolutely. What strikes me is how the story captures that delicate balance between childhood innocence and the encroaching cynicism of the world.
Hmm.
Ariel, at that age where belief in Santa is already starting to waver, is suddenly confronted with outright doubt from her classmate.
Right.
It's a pivotal moment, and the author really nails the emotional impact of that experience.
It's interesting you say that, because for me, that classroom scene was almost like a punch to the gut.
Yeah, I can see that.
Ariel's so full of excitement about Christmas, and then bam, Savannah just throws that doubt right in her face.
It's hard.
It is. It made me wonder how much of our own cynicism as adults stems from those kinds of experiences we had as children. Those moments where someone told us, that's just for kids, and we started to lose that sense of wonder.
That's a really insightful point. And it raises the question, how do we navigate those moments, both for ourselves and for the children in our lives?
Yeah.
How do we protect that spark of belief, that sense of magic, even in the face of doubt and cynicism?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. It's a tough one, too. Yeah, it's a delicate dance, isn't it? On the one hand, we want to encourage critical thinking to help kids understand how the world works, but on the other hand, we don't want to squash their sense of wonder and imagination. And I think the story offers us a clue here. Santa, when confronted with Ariel's doubt, doesn't try to prove his existence.
Right.
Instead, he reframes the whole concept of belief.
He says, Christmas magic isn't about proving anything. It's about believing in the things you can't always see. Love, generosity, and joy. And that's a pretty profound statement, even outside the context of Santa Claus.
Exactly. He's talking about faith, about having trust in something beyond the tangible. And that's something that's relevant to all of us, regardless of whether we believe in Santa or not. Think about it. We base so much of our lives on things we can't see or touch: hope, trust, love.
Hmm.
These are the invisible forces that shape our relationships, our communities, our world.
It's like that saying, you can't see the wind, but you can see the leaves moving. The evidence of these intangible things is all around us if we know where to look.
Precisely. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from the story. It's not about blindly accepting things without question, but about recognizing that there are different ways of knowing different kinds of truth. And sometimes the most important truth are the ones we feel in our hearts, rather than the ones we can prove with logic.
It reminds me of something I read about the psychology of awe. Experiences of awe, like seeing the Grand Canyon or witnessing a meteor shower, can actually shift our beliefs and values.
Right.
We're confronted with something so vast and magnificent that our old ways of thinking just don't seem to fit anymore.
That's a fascinating connection. And I think it relates to Ariel's sleigh ride experience. That view of her town from above, seeing the interconnectedness of it all, it gives her a new perspective, a sense of awe and wonder that rekindles her belief. It's not just about Santa being real, it's about seeing the world and her place in it with new eyes.
That makes me think about how we often get so caught up in our own little bubbles, our own routines and problems, that we forget to step back and look at the bigger picture.
Right.
We lose that sense of perspective, that childlike wonder at the world around us.
And that's where the story's message becomes really powerful. It's a reminder that we all have the capacity for that kind of awe and wonder, even as adults. It might take a little more effort, a conscious decision to seek out those experiences, but the potential for magic is always there.
So you're saying we need to find our own sleigh rides, those moments that shake us out of our routines and help us see the world with fresh eyes. But what about those times when we're stuck in the doubt, when the magic feels far away? What about the savannas in our lives, those people or situations that make us question everything?
That's where I think the snowflake ornament comes in. It's not just a pretty trinket, it's a symbol of Ariel's restored belief, a tangible reminder of the magic she experienced. And it serves as a sort of anchor, something to hold on to when those doubts creep back in. Because, let's face it, life is full of challenges, disappointments, things that test our faith.
It's like that saying, life is tough, but so are you.
Mm-hmm.
We need those anchors, those reminders of what we believe in to help us weather the storms. It could be a physical object, a memory, a quote, a song, anything that holds personal meaning and helps us reconnect with that sense of hope and possibility.
Exactly. And I think that's something worth reflecting on. What are the snowflake ornaments in your own life? What are those things that bring you comfort, that remind you of the magic that's still out there, even when things feel tough? Take a moment to consider that. What are those anchors that help you hold on to your own sense of belief, of wonder, of hope? It really is fascinating how something so simple as a snowflake ornament can hold such profound meaning, you know? It reminds us that these anchors of belief don't have to be grand or elaborate. They can be the smallest, most personal things that hold a special significance for us.
Makes me think, we often associate Santa Claus with childhood,
Right.
but maybe there are some valuable lessons we can take from him into adulthood.
Oh, absolutely.
That spirit of generosity, that unwavering belief in the good, in humanity, those are qualities that can really make a difference in the world, no matter our age.
I think you've hit on something really important. Santa embodies a kind of radical hopefulness, a belief in the possibility of joy and wonder, even when things are tough. And that's something we could all use a little more of these days, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Maybe the real magic of believing isn't about literal reindeer and chimneys, but about choosing to see the world through a lens of possibility, of kindness, of generosity. It's about holding on to that spark of wonder, that belief that things can get better, that we can make a difference.
And those beliefs can be contagious. When we choose to act with kindness and generosity, when we radiate that sense of hope and possibility, it has a ripple effect on the people around us. It's like we're spreading a little bit of that Christmas magic throughout the year.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the magic that never fades, I think the question we're left with is this. How can we keep that spark of belief alive, not just during the holidays, but all year round? How can we be the Santa Clauses in our own lives, spreading that magic of generosity, kindness, and hope to the people around us?
That's a beautiful challenge to leave our listeners with. And, I don't think there's one right answer.
Right.
It's about finding those small, everyday ways to cultivate wonder, to practice kindness, to choose hope over cynicism. It's about being present, appreciating the little things, and remembering that even in the darkest of times, there's always a glimmer of light, a spark of magic waiting to be rekindled.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us on this journey into the magic that never fades. We hope this deep dive has left you feeling a little more hopeful, a little more inspired to seek out and spread a little bit of magic in your own life. Thanks for dropping by Kringle's Christmas Stories, and a very Merry Christmas. And don't forget to get your Comet's Choice reindeer food at cometschoice.com. Reindeer tested, Santa approved,